Mr. Chairman. The North American Free Trade Agreement, the goal was to integrate Mexico with the highly developed economies of the United States and Canada. And NAFTA had pioneered the incorporation of labor and environmental standards, theoretically. Mr. Hernstadt, what, as a percentage in your estimation, is the difference between the United States, Mexican-Canada agreement with that of NAFTA?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Well, what's the difference? Is there a big difference between the proposed United States, Mexican-Canadian agreement when compared to the NAFTA, the original NAFTA agreement of 25 years ago?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, there isn't a lot of real impact.
As a general percentage?
I'm not sure I follow that.
Is it a radical, is it 75% new? Is it
I'm sorry.
90% new? Is it 95% the same?
In terms of the labor provision of it?
Labor and environmental, let's just...
well, I'm not really an expert on environmental, but...
labor.
But I will say it's primarily the same. It's
primarily the same.
And the effect on U.S. workers and Mexican workers and Canadian workers will be almost identical. In fact, it won't stop outsourcing, it won't raise
So no big
standards.
difference, no big difference. So the goal of the integration of Mexico with the highly developed economies of the United States and Canada have not been achieved.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right. Well, I think you're right.
Particularly the impact on workers.
I think you're right, because the North American Free Trade Agreement used a term called wage convergence between the United States and Mexico, basically telling us 25 years ago, bamboozling us 25 years ago, that we were going to have wage convergence. The minimum wage in Mexico today is $4.70 a day. That's less than 59 cents an hour. The United States lost 53,000 manufacturing businesses in the last 20 years, representing 5.5 million manufacturing jobs over that same 20 years. Do you know what a maquiladora factory is?
Yes, in fact, I have toured them.
Yeah. Can you explain it?
Yeah. Maquiladora factory sometimes is a state-of-the-art factory in Mexico, using high technology, doing advanced leading-edge technology on everything from appliances to electronics. Workers there are paid abysmally. The labor rights don't exist in terms of free labor unions and collective bargaining, and often the workers live in slums.
Yeah. Let's move to the issue of environment. There are 2,700 maquiladora factories. These are factories that are in Mexico, and there are foreign-owned that do most of the exporting back to where the company is owned, in the country. So it seems to me that they're kind of put in place to sidestep perhaps U.S. environmental laws that were put in place in 1971, 1972 to help restore our waterways, our land, and our air, right? Okay. So it says here that, this is according to the Mexican government, that NAFTA-related environmental damage has been about $40 billion a year for the past 25 years. That's $1 trillion a year. And when you look at that damage that has been created, when you look at the wage convergence promise and the great disparity in reality, it seems to me that while we are sold on the notion that trade agreements are supposed to be in game theory variable sum, in other words, there can be multiple winners, where in fact they're zero sum. There are winners and there are losers. And I would argue, at least for places like Buffalo, New York, and the those urban centers of the American Northeast. This agreement that is before us today is really nothing more than a redux of the agreement that we're trying to get out of. So in terms of wages and in terms of the environment, this agreement is a loser. With that, I'll yield back.
Gentleman's time is expired.